So that's an example of an if expression. What we need to do now is look at the detailed rules for evaluating if expressions. What I'm going to do is first go ahead and put the evaluation rules for if here on the right. And then I'm going to change the example expression a little bit, just to make it a little bit richer so we'll understand the rules a bit better. I'll say that if the width is less than the height will produce the width, the true answer will be the width, and the false answer will be the height. Now let's try to step through that bit by bit, and I'll also use the Control-E or Command-E command to just make Racket hide the interaction area, so I've got a bit more room to work. So let's see, I've got an if expression, and the rule for evaluating an if expression is the first thing I have to do is evaluate the question expression. So there's the question expression. The question expression is a call to the primitive less than. So the first thing I have to do is reduce all of its operands to values. Let's see, the first operand isn't a value, it's an expression. In particular, it's a call to the primitive image width. And the first thing I have to do is reduce all of its operands to values. Gee, this first operand isn't a value, it's the name of a constant, so I have to produce a value for it. So the first evaluation step simply is going to reduce that expression, the constant name, to the corresponding value. In this case, what that does is that I2 becomes the actual image, the image value. Okay, so now let's see. If expression, reduce the question, reduce the operands to this less than, here's the first operand, that's image width of that. What happens here is that this whole thing, I'm just copying it and pasting it, this whole thing becomes, we just end up reducing this expression here this time, so that's going to become 20, the width of rectangle 2. The next step, well at this point I think you can see how this is going to work. Now we're basically reducing this operand to the less than. In the next step, the I2 becomes an image. And then in the step after that, that whole thing becomes 10. And I'll just put it on one line like this so we get a bit more room to work with. So remember what we did here is we had to evaluate the if expression. If wants to evaluate its question expression first. This was a call to a primitive in which both operands were calls to primitive. So there's a fair amount of evaluation work we have to do here before we've evaluated the question expression, and we still aren't even done. We still now have a call to a primitive. Both operands are values, so now we can actually call less than with the two values. Now less than 2010, well 20 is not less than 10. So that's clearly going to be false. And now finally we've evaluated the question expression. We've evaluated the question expression. And now we go to the remaining rules of the if. Next rule says that if the question expression produces true, well it hasn't. Here the question expression has produced false. So the next rule says if the question expression produces false, then what we're going to do is replace the entire if expression with the false answer. So there's the false answer. The entire if expression gets replaced with the false answer. Now we have a call to a primitive. First operand is not a value, so we need to evaluate it. So that has to get evaluated. Now all the operands to image height are values, so we can actually call image height, and we get 10. The whole thing evaluates to 10. And again, if we use that trick I showed you in the last video of running this now, we'll see a whole bunch of 10s, which tells us that we did all of our evaluation steps properly. So the key thing is the rule for if is first you evaluate the question, and then depending on the result of the question, you replace the entire if with either the true answer or the false answer, and then you just keep evaluating.